In today's video, I am going to be breaking down Larry Bird, one of the best three-point shooters ever in the NBA. Let's get down, let's check him out. Okay, so one thing really quickly, not just three-point shots, but mid-range turnaround jumpers were his specialty. And some of the things that he did were really spectacular. He was able to get up a lot of shots over top of his defenders. So one way that he was able to do this was no matter what foot he was pushing off from, if he was pushing off right and of course tilting super right so that he has to turn his whole body around, he does. Now, what he does next is to kick this right leg around so that he's able to stabilize himself in air and gets his right side of his body in line. Remember what I always mention, shooting triangle, getting that shoulder in line with the elbow towards the rim and having that ball over top of somewhere between your elbow and your shoulder. And because of that, he's able to, of course, make a ton of different shots. He also does this when driving towards the left side. He's able to plant both feet down, totally leaning towards that left side, but still gets his foot out to be able to create that space, but gets his right side in line so that now he can make those shots. Even here, we can see that too. But coming off of this screen is a really good clip as to see how Larry Bird really shot that ball. It didn't matter where his feet were. They could be pointing towards the left, the right, forward, didn't really matter. All what mattered was kicking that right leg out so that he could get that right side of his body in line. He also has a massive tilt on his body away from the rim. Remember back in the day that coaches and trainers used to teach players to always square up towards the rim. Well, even the best shooters in the world, even back then, were not doing that. We can also see that he tries to keep his shoulders over his knees and toes so that he has the balance and power to get up into the air. We can see from here that he actually has a very soft release. Now, he doesn't curl his hand down, but what he does is it's such a soft push right at the end, and look at his hand just slightly fall back down. It's such a soft shot that it's able to have a ton of arc, but also look at his offhand. What's he doing? Well, what's he doing is he actually has, in almost every single case, his elbow and his shoulder not exactly where you would expect. So what he has is his shoulder still in line with his elbow. However, his elbow is actually higher than his shoulder. So because his elbow is higher than his shoulder, that's actually going to help with having a high release. It's also a very high set point that makes it extremely hard for defenders to block. And with his offhand, he has a slight thumb flick. That is actually very interesting. So you're asking, well, why is it so interesting that he has a thumb flick? Why is it so interesting that he has that slight thumb flick where he actually ends up with his palm right there facing the rim? As we can see, he has that hard release, but it's such a soft pull down after that hard release that he gets so much arc. But why is this so important? Well, as we can see here, even though that half of that ball is lined up with his shoulder, the other half is not. And a lot of players who have that half ball over shoulder or ball overhead, ball in front of forehead, whatever it may be, a lot of those players naturally have a slight thumb flick. Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, they all have a slight thumb flick. Why is that important? Well, if you shoot with a massive thumb flick, you're going to have zero arc and zero backwards rotation on that ball. And believe me, you want to have arc on that ball and you want to have backwards rotation on that ball, because what basically happens is when that ball hits that rim and there's no rotation, there's a very high likelihood it's going to continue off onto the other side. However, if you shoot with a lot of backspin and it hits that rim, it's going to pull that ball back so that it doesn't bounce as high or as far, so you've got a higher probability of course, it bouncing in. And of course, when you shoot with a lot of arc, that rim looks a lot bigger than a rim that obviously didn't get shot with a lot of arc. So there's Larry Bird's shot. It's actually a very complicated shot, and it's not going to be something that you could practice overnight. And I wouldn't practice the upper body part of it. What I would suggest practicing is the ability to kick that leg out so that you can get your right side of the body in line no matter what. Whether you're way super tilted more than you normally would be, or if you're facing the other way trying to do a turnaround pull-up, having that ability to kick that leg out is going to allow you to hit more shots, especially when you're not balanced. I hope that this video helps you. If it has, hit that like button, subscribe. I'll see you guys again next time.